66 regular season games are now in the books, which means we are looking forward to the playoffs. He's Blake Sebring. I'm Glenn Marini. We're talking Inside the Zone, Comets hockey this week, a playoff preview, and the schedule is out. Comets get Rapid City in the first round. That series begins Friday in Rapid City, and I'll tell you what, it's going to be a tough series for the Comets.
I think it's going the distance. I think it's weird thing is I think it's an advantage for the Comets to start on the road the first two games too. I just think they're so much more comfortable on the road than they are at home, and they just go play, and it's just a different thing, and they've had success in Rapid City this year too.
It's been a while, though, since these two teams have hooked up. They're obviously both in the Turner Conference, but they haven't played each other since December the 3rd. So this isn't an Evansville or a Dayton, a team that you are playing double-digit times. They played 5 times this year, and not since the beginning of December.
Well, and both teams were banged up early, too, when they played, so they really haven't seen the full lineups. And they won't see the full Fort Wayne lineup for at least a couple games either.
Talk about where they are, because the Comets can't add a college player. Can they add 2 college players?
They can add 2 college players.
They added 1 last year, was Tom Mealy.
Right.
And obviously he stuck with them. But where are they roster-wise, knowing that you can add 2 college players, and then with injuries as well?
Well, right now, Brent Henley is suspended for the first 2 games. T.J. Miller is going to be put on the roster, but he won't be playing, unless there's some dramatic turnaround, he won't be playing the first 2 games because of a concussion. They're going to activate Bryant Molly off IR. Anybody who's on IR right now, you're either activated or you're gone, and that's it. That's the way that you have a 19-man roster, and then you can add 2 amateur players, which means juniors or college kids. Now, if it's a college kid or it's a junior and they have any chance at all of being drafted by the NHL, they ain't coming. So forget that. So you got to go out and find kids who, maybe one of the Comets knows, maybe somebody they played with, which is what happened with Tom Mealy when Frankie DeAngelis brought him in. Now, Al Sims always likes to keep 7 defensemen for the playoffs. It's even more critical this year with those 2 guys out. You're going to have to play 7, which means you'll be playing the first 2 games with 5 D-men, and then you'll just go with 10 forwards.
Looking at the end of the year standings, you say, okay, it's a 1 seed versus a 4 seed. The 1's got to be heavily favored, but it was so tight in the Turner Conference. We're talking 5 points separating the top 4 teams. And really, the teams are playing well at this point in the season, playing very equally at this point in the season.
Yeah, I did a study last night of the last 20 games and the last 25 games of the season, and they're all within like 3-4 points of each other. It's just that tight. And it was that way with the teams in the Berry Conference, too. There's nobody that's jumping out. Wichita had the best record through the year. But their record for the last 20-25 games was just as equal as everybody else's.
Goaltending, huge in the postseason. Really, in Comets history, I don't think anybody's done it better than Nick Boucher. You look at the numbers, though. Rapid City's got a pretty good goalie in Tim Boron. Their numbers are so similar, they both give up 2.44 goals a game. Right on the money similar. So how is goaltending a push in this series? Or do you think because Boucher's so good on the road, maybe the Comets have an advantage, or maybe Boron's playing well?
You're right. Nick is the road goalie. But what's crazy, he's got 15 home playoff wins in a row. That's kind of hard to beat.
That's true.
Yeah, there's a nice intangible, and he got his mojo back this weekend too. And it wasn't because he made the spectacular saves. It wasn't because he made, the game-saving saves, although he did a few of those too. It was because he got the chip back on his shoulder. He was battling, and it's like he was, like he said, I'm a gamer, and I'll fight all the way to the end. And that's what he did all 3 games. They weren't artistic by any stretch, but they were typical Nick. He was, fighting with everything he had to keep the puck out of the net, and it worked.
Offensively, as far as snipers and scores go, it looks like on paper Rapid City has the advantage. They've got 2 players with over 80 points this year in Limpright, and Reeder. Comets have 3 guys in the 60s, led by Bobby with 66 points. So offensively, where do you see this series matching up? How does it look to you?
I talked to Mike Vescivio yesterday about it because he played 54 games with Rapid City, and he was saying the biggest difference was Fort Wayne's depth. It wasn't just 1 line, or it wasn't a line and a half. It was all 3 lines that really contributed. And you could see that in the season series between the 2 teams, because the Comets had, I think, 6 guys who scored 5 points in the 5 games. and Rapid City had one guy that scored 4. I mean, it was just kind of that way, the way it worked out, that the Comets' balance was the key. Now, part of that is the Comets got to bang. They just have to bang. They've got to take Rapid City off their game by banging. And if you're physical with those guys, Mike was saying, it'll take them off their game. They've also got to, the number one thing I think maybe in the whole series, do not react to Les Rainey. Do not let him get under your skin. Do not let him entice you into any penalties. Do not retaliate, Let him do whatever he's going to do, and he's great at it. I mean, he's the best pest in the league, and he's going to be obnoxious, and he'll be dirty if he'll push the envelope on the rules, and he'll do whatever he does. Let him do it. That's the hard part.